From Synerger, this is Polaris. I'm Chris McNulty. AI is transforming technology faster than ever. It isn't replacing coders, but coders with AI are replacing coders without it. Today, we'll look at vibe coding, what it offers, what are the risks, and what does the future hold for AI-assisted software development. Are we entering a world where all software is created from a 50-word prompt? And is that world better than what we have today? This is Polaris. Welcome to Polaris Pathways. I'm your host, Chris McNulty, Chief Technology Officer at Synerger. Synerger, the transformation company, reimagines business for our clients, navigating strategies and leadership culture with ease. Today, I'm happy to introduce Andrew Connell to the show. AC is the founder of Voitanos, a company dedicated to helping web developers become experts in Microsoft 365. He's been a Microsoft MVP for over 20 years and has helped thousands of developers master SharePoint framework, Microsoft Azure, and Microsoft 365 development. He's also a prolific content creator, running a popular YouTube channel, writing extensively, and co-hosting the Code, Deploy, Go Live podcast with fellow MVP, Julie Turner. He'll join us in a few minutes, but first, let's define our terms and our data points. As usual, our reading lists and references will be included in our show notes. In February 2025, Andrew Connell, OpenAI co-founder and former head of AI at Tesla, tweeted about a new way of programming where you fully give in to the vibes, embrace exponentials, and forget that the code even exists. Last year, LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman ran a deceptively simple experiment that captured just how radically software creation is changing. He asked Replit's AI agent to clone LinkedIn using a single prompt. Not to rebuild the company, but to see how far modern AI could go with minimal instruction. What came back was a surprisingly functional prototype, complete enough to make the point unmistakable. Hoffman shared that the real lesson wasn't about copying features, but about how fast ideas can now become working systems. With the right framing, he argued, today's AI tools collapse the distance between imagination and execution. Within a year, Collins English Dictionary named vibe coding its word of the year for 2026. By this year, a staggering 92% of U.S. developers report using AI coding tools daily. Gartner forecasts that 60% of all new code will be AI-generated this year. That vibe coding market, it's reached $4.7 billion globally. So vibe coding is everywhere. It's fast, but what about quality? Just last month, Anthropic published a groundbreaking randomized controlled trial showing developers using AI coding assistants scored 17% lower on comprehension tests than those coding manually, with productivity gains failing to reach statistical significance. The study of 52 junior engineers revealed a stark divide. Developers who used AI for conceptual questions scored 65% or higher, while those delegating code generation to AI scored below 40%. Okay, we have Andrew waiting in our virtual green room. Let's go. Welcome back. So today, I'm thrilled to introduce our guest, Andrew Connell. Andrew, welcome to Polaris.
Hey, thanks a lot, Chris. I was looking forward to doing this today.
So where are you calling from today?
I'm in sunny St. John's, Florida, and Northeast Florida, right between Jacksonville and St. Augustine.
The first time I was speaking at an event in Florida, which is down near Fort Lauderdale, when someone came to me and said, hey, I really want to come to your session today. I drove down from Jacksonville. I was standing around later on. The person next to me was like, you have no idea how far away that is. I'm like, oh, not a clue.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that. I'm in the corner, like the northeast corner of it. So I could drive 5 hours due west and I'm still in the state. I'm in Pensacola. I could do 5 hours due south and I'm in Miami. I could go another 5 hours due south and then I'm in Key West. Or from where I live, I could do kind of like a dog leg over to Tampa, St. Petersburg. And depending on the traffic and the way that you go, that's going to be 3.5 or 4.5 or 5. It was 6 when we did it back in February. So yeah. I'm enjoying it because I know, a couple conferences coming up and one of them is just 2 hours down the road from me. So it's nice that I can drive. I don't have to fly. So that'll be nice.
Yeah, I'll be flying to that one, and we'll chat about that in a bit. But clearly, audience, Andrew and I have met each other. You may be meeting him for the first time. So I'd love to give you a chance to introduce yourself to the audience. You've been a principal in this Microsoft ecosystem of ours for a good number of years. I'll just leave it at that. How did
yeah, you can tell by my hair.
How did you get started?
I was pushed into it, to be honest. I joined a company called Fidelity National Financial, or Fidelity Information Services. They did like banking software for Bank of America, a bunch of big companies like ATM stuff and back-end stuff. I joined the marketing team that did all of the internal and external communication and also supported stuff internally. And I joined as a .NET developer who was essentially like my main charter was to help existing Lotus Notes developers to move over to .NET because the company had just signed an enterprise agreement and was going to use Microsoft Content Management Server for their public-facing site and SharePoint Portal Server 2003 for their intranet site. And so I was basically just told, you're going to learn SharePoint, you're going to learn Content Management Server. And I loved the experience of both of them when I first got into it, especially as a developer, got to really like figure out how do you hack your way through SharePoint at the time. There was no documentation. There was no dev story unless you figured it out on your own. So yeah, it goes back 20 plus years, I guess, is you.
Those are the good old days. I know you've taken a pretty prominent role at kind of shaping not just the course of development, but so many people's careers for how they understand what good looks like in this ecosystem, also helping Microsoft understand what good looks like. Talk to me a little bit about what you've been doing since those glory days.
Yeah, I mean, I've lived the SharePoint developer world since the very early days. Like I was in SharePoint 2001 Tahoe, but I've lived all of the SharePoint development models. I've moved into the cloud like the rest of the world, in M365, everything that's kind of been centered around that from a developer's point of view, or I guess pro code. I've been involved in it. So if it's Microsoft Graph, if it's building apps for teams, if it's building custom agents these days with Copilot, SharePoint framework, I'm probably best known for my work with Content Management Server, or Web WCM in SharePoint 2007, and the SharePoint framework. When I had a training business from 2009 to 2013, I got sick of it, sick of doing the same thing over and over and over. Didn't know what I wanted to do, quit in 2013, sold my interest, successful exit, played around aimlessly for about 3 years trying to figure out what I was going to do next. And then I saw Microsoft say, hey, all you SharePoint developers, we're going to switch you from going server-side dev to client-side dev, and it's all going to be node-based. You're going to do everything client-side. I'm like, man, you guys, the last 3 years, ever since I stopped doing SharePoint stuff, I've been living in Node. I've been living on Mac OS. I've been living in Angular, doing client-side dev, which is what I came out of college doing. And I was like, you're going to lose everybody. And so I was like, well, opportunity, don't know what I'm doing. I'll start a training thing. I'll start teaching again since I've got a knack for it. And that's where I really just kind of made my name for myself for SharePoint framework right when it came out. And I've just kind of leaned into it since then. So still do a lot of that work, but do a lot also with teams, do a lot with Copilot agents and everything. And it's mostly on like the education. So live classes, virtual, in-person, self-paced courses, more live stuff now these days. I think that, AI has left, I think, developers wanting a lot more like connection. And then I also do a lot of like coaching for my clients, to where I'll do like a retainer model where they're like, hey, we got this big project. Do you do any consulting? I'm like, nope, don't do that anymore. But I do private coaching. So if you want to learn SharePoint framework, I suggest you get your team of 5, buy my course, go through the course, and then let's get together for an hour on whatever your time frame is. And let's just, show me what you're doing, and I'll just kind of mentor you through this project that you're doing. So it's a cheaper way of doing consulting for them. And it works for me because I'm able to touch more customers that way. So
when we were preparing for this, you mentioned that you thought Microsoft was in a really bad spot with Copilot. Yep. And it's been 3 weeks since then. So of course it could be totally different, but could you unpack what you meant by that for our audience?
Yeah, I think right now, When it comes to AI, I mean, I don't think there's really much of a secret with it. But I think that Microsoft is flailing a good bit, kind of across the board. Azure seems to have a little bit of a better story, but I think with Microsoft 365, from the high level, to me, they seem to be flailing. They seem to be reacting to what other people are doing, and there's no real cohesive story across all of their M365 Copilot story. I think this was made quite evident. That's what I was seeing from customers, and I was a little hesitant to be too public about it because I didn't want people thinking I was just trying to be like, negative nanny or just a person complaining about Microsoft. But I think there was a study that was done from over the course of 6 months, from July of 2025 to January of 2026, of 150,000 professionals.
Mm-hmm.
And they really compared people who were using Copilot, who had access to Copilot, Gemini from Google, and ChatGPT from OpenAI, and which one people used. The Wall Street Journal picked up this thing. I can give you a link to this in the show notes if you like. But a really good article that summarized it and showed that overall Microsoft was a very distant third when people were given the option. And the things they complained about, same things I heard my customers complaining about. It's just a very fragmented story. So I'm not really thrilled with the story they have today. I'm a little disappointed in it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you can do, but I think that there's still like the stuff that I see that's kind of under the covers. I feel like it's very much, you've got 2 or 3 teams that are classic Microsoft shipping the org chart, but it's to the point now where I've been doing this long enough to where I remember the Bill Gates days. And I remember when, Bill Gates would have a strategy of let's give 2 or 3 teams the direction of here's what you're going to go do. And all of you do the same thing. And whoever does it the best way, that's the winner. And that's the one we're going to do. He doesn't really say it that way, but he's like, you got a couple teams that are doing it. So they were all shipping the org chart. And then ultimately they kind of brought it together. I feel we're almost 2-3 years into this with Copilot development, customization, and development extensibility. And for like the Copilot Studio, low code, no code stuff, I feel we're still playing that game. And I feel like at this point today, with as fast as things are progressing, and especially when your competitors have a much more cohesive story, I think this has gone on for too long. And I would have liked to see a little bit more stability in it since then, by now. But that's my take
I can
on Copilot.
totally see that. I'll tell you, I can't tell you, client after client we run into, they have a negative, sometimes they have a negative impression of Copilot because Copilot is everywhere. And their belief is that the entirety of Copilot is the free little thing that you get in the corner of the Edge browser.
Yep.
You're like, I tried to do something there and it didn't work.
Yep.
And then just like with the kind of, I will say a little bit of spaghetti tossing, like since you and I did the prep, Copilot co-work. And we do an awful lot of, well, when should I use Claude co-work versus when should I use Copilot co-work versus the new, what's going to be coming with SharePoint skills. And I think it's just going in so many different directions. The good news is for folks like you and folks like me, we can add value by bringing some coherence to that.
Yeah. I think, we can't talk too much about stuff that we see and stuff because I know we're both under NDA with kind of get some idea of the direction where Microsoft is going. And it's not like they're not doing anything. They're doing a lot of stuff. It just feels like there's a lot of, it's the stuff we see in public. This isn't even stuff that's like my observations. I can just kind of repeat what we see in the news and everything, that they're basically shipping the org chart. Culture's not all that good right now because a lot of people they've been through multiple rounds of rifts, of layoffs. So everyone's feeling like this very defensive posture. We see cuts around the board that seem to be tied to everything except for AI. So it looks like Microsoft is feeling the pressure from the CapEx that they've had, and they're having to actually produce some sort of return on investment to Wall Street. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see it again before the fiscal year's over in June. I just see everybody else like great. You brought this up, a great example. So Claude co-work.
Mm-hmm.
I think that what Anthropic, the maker of Claude, I think that what Google, and I think that what OpenAI does a pretty good job of doing is that you have a pretty good feel for each of those companies and the direction they're going. Even with the most recent reset or realignment that OpenAI is doing right now, or it was announced in the last week or so when we're recording this. But I think you should get a pretty good feel for what their product suite is on the AI side and what tool is used for each different scenario and where there is and is not overlap. There's a couple little rough edges here and there. But to your point, Microsoft's I saw this thing on LinkedIn the other day that a guy went through and did an inventory of everywhere you see the word Copilot from Microsoft. And the thing that's frustrating is that you would think that things would have more connection to each other. More of these different Copilots have connection to each other. You hear Copilot, you're like, oh, it's just one thing. It's like, no, these are all individual things, individual product teams. They don't talk to each other. They don't behave the same way. They have different capabilities. Some have capabilities, the other ones don't. And the ones that do have the same capabilities, they work differently. Even in the case of building an agent for Microsoft 365 Copilot, right? There's multiple options. They really, the ones you hear the most about are doing declarative agents using Agents Toolkit and VS Code, more on the pro code side and developer story, or using Copilot Studio and doing more of a WYSIWYG kind of an interface there. And whichever tool you use to create it, you can very easily get a very different end user experience, even though Microsoft pitches them as feature equivalent, which is a complete farce.
Well, I would say in my experience with Copilot Studio, you can get a very different experience even within the same agent from day to day to day.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm disappointed in that. I'm disappointed in the frustrating part. That to me is what's frustrating. And frankly, that's the thing that I'm disappointed with in Microsoft today is that I don't think that for someone who has got such a good, unique position here of so many enterprise companies, so many enterprises are on 365 and they have all their data on 365. It just floors me that Microsoft's moat is the fact they have everybody's data, the enterprise data. And if there's a way that we could take Anthropic and Claude and replace Copilot with what we have with Claude, I'd be thrilled. I think it'd be a much better story today. I just would like to see Microsoft stop doing this hey, look, Claude comes out with Cowork. Sweet. Oh, Microsoft. Oh, we got to rush up. We got to do something. Now we're afraid of this. We got to actually do something with Cowork. It's what about where's the North Star? Where are we going? Where's the story here? Right now the plan just feels very reactionary, and that's frustrating to me.
No, I think there is a very clear path. And wait, no, there's OpenClaw. Okay, we have to.
Yeah. I see that too. And I saw somebody, I know we both know who he is. I don't want to name names and everything, but somebody who's been a vice president with Word for a long time, very, very senior person. I may be getting that title wrong, but very senior. With Microsoft for a long time in the Word space. And now he's working on essentially personal agents or OpenClaw inside of Microsoft 365 for users. And I was just really? Is that you're the enterprise company? Where's the security there? Maybe you can add security to it, but I get that it's taken off like wildfire, but your foundation of what you got here still is very frustrating. So,
right. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not betting against them. I'm just telling you today. They're a huge company. They usually get it right eventually. But the thing that's frustrating is that today, it's the story is a little frustrating, and it's a lot of when you try and do a workshop teaching people how to build agents, it's a lot of yeah, but or if this, then that.
And this is about to change. I can't tell you how, but what I'm showing you today might not work in a month. But don't worry about that.
Oh yeah, I'm going to go teach. I'm going to go present at 2 conferences, and do my own workshop over the next month. And I'm confident that something will be different if I did the exact same circuit a month or 2 later. That would fundamentally change something I said. So that's the best thing you do is just kind of guide people, just be ready for change.
So let's get into this a little bit because we've set up today's episode to talk about vibe coding. And it's something that I'm going to be presenting on later in the spring is how do you bring vibe coding into an M365 environment? And as you and I have been chatting, when you first heard the term, I think you initially said you hated it. And I'd be kind of curious about why that is and how you feel about it now.
Yeah. I really didn't. Okay. So I think that part of my initial reaction of it was you're coming on my turf, back off. I'll be honest about it. I got a little defensive in it. I think that a lot of developers feel that way too. I really didn't like it. I fundamentally thought like the definition that I saw of vibe coding at the time, which I realize now is a little bit off. But it's actually fundamentally it is what vibe coding is. The guy that came up with the definition of it, he said this, but it's somebody who does not have a development background is just using natural language to go through and to build agents and build apps and then deploy them to the enterprise. I'm like, hold on one sec. I've been playing with AI a lot. I've been using AI a lot. I've been developing with AI a lot. And there's a lot of things that I see it do when I tell it what to do. And I'm like, no. That's not good. Don't do that. That's not going to work. There's a better way of doing this. Either it's a security thing, like going, whoa, no. We're not going to do this at all. This is a bad idea. Or like in the case of like, say, Microsoft 365, like, no. Do not create a polling thing that's going to hit Microsoft Graph every 5 seconds to find the latest updates. Bad idea. Can you do it? Yeah. But you're also going to got a lot of users in your organization? Was that ever part of the thing you factored in? No? Okay. Get ready for throttling and a lot of 429s. They're going to give you that show your app's not going to work. It's going to demo great. Then you're going to ship it and it's going to be like, why doesn't it work? This sucks. Microsoft sucks. Right. Like, no. So my thinking on it has changed a bit though, because the more I used it, the more that I was using AI, I was almost self-conscious to tell people that I was using it from a development point of view. I primarily use Claude Code, just the entire Claude stack for my development experience. And I found that like the stuff I was doing, I didn't know if you would call it Claude or if you call it vibe coding or not. But I finally read this series by this guy named Simon Willison, out in California, British guy out in California. Mm-hmm. And I saw him like, I don't know if he's the one that coined it, but it sure is the first place I've seen, and it still dates back to it. But he coined this term agentic engineering. And the way he explained it was, I'm like, that's what I'm doing. I'm not doing Claude. I'm not doing the vibe coding. The definition of vibe coding here, and I know that in our show notes you had a link to it somewhere, but the guy that coined the term said, I just want to go through and just start like building stuff. I don't want to look at the code. I just want to go keep committing stuff and shipping features, and I just tell it what to do and it builds everything out. And it's so cool to just knock this stuff out. I now have a very I do vibe coding at times, but most of my stuff, not vibe coding. I'm still going to use these tools to build stuff, to plan stuff, to implement features. I've literally got I've got a work tree running of like 5 plans being executed right now. Mm-hmm. But I'm still reviewing what's being done. I'm making sure that I understand what's being done. I have a different background to where I can call BS on something that I see. Whereas somebody who is like the chief marketing officer or the CEO, who thinks like, I don't need developers. I'm going to fire them all. I'm just going to use Lovable and just build all my apps out and ship everything that way. I'm like, there's a bit of a background that you don't really have. That you want to make sure that you understand.
Oh, I believe it's a fantastic demo. The first time I used Lovable or Replit or any of those tools with a C-suite to say, let me explain the art of the possible, and then we talk about what the risks are, is I want to build an entire travel management system. 5 minutes later, you've got a UX that sits in front of it. And people go, that's really cool. Yeah. And I would usually do something like, I'd close the browser and open it up again and say, hey, let's look up the trip. Let's look up the trip we just planned. I'm like, oh, it's not here. I'm like, where'd it go? I'm like, well, we never said that we wanted the data to last.
Yeah, we didn't say that.
In memory.
Yep.
Right. I think you need to like what you get is still proportional to the attention you put into it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's a lot like, it's a lot like I'm a bit of a handyman around the house, right? Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that I don't want to hire somebody to come in and deal with. I've changed the outlets out in the house. I've put in like smart outlets. I've done a couple of things like electrical stuff. I've done a little bit of stuff on the plumbing, put our own water softener in, put a bypass in, that kind of stuff and everything. Mm-hmm. But there's a certain point when you're like, oh yeah, I've done this stuff with the outlets. Cool. Oh, something's not working here. Oh, it must be the fuse. I'm going to go take the cover off my fuse box. I'm going to go through and change out some of these fuses. It's like, I mean, when you look at this going, hey, look, there's a reason why there's a cover on it. And just because you've done some stuff, you don't have full perspective on it. Right. And I mean, it was a great example. we had something where like our power would trip in our house in one room every few nights. Everything would just die. And we'd have to go out to the fuse box and flip it over. I had enough experience playing with this, working around the house, my house, friends' houses, whatever. I'm like, I understand how this stuff works. I'm like, I just got to switch out the fuse. But that's not what it was. Come back to find out, finally hired an electrician. I'm like, I'm sick of this. Electrician comes out, looks at it, and he goes, when was this house built? I told him, and he's like, do you have one of the blah, blah, blahs? And I'm like, I have no idea what you just said. All right. And he goes over and looks at the fuse box, and he's like, I got your issue here. About this time, there were these things they were putting into fuse boxes that were having this kind of a trip that would go on, and they would trip really often. And after 5 to 10 years, they would start to die. They would start to get old, and they trip much more. They're much more sensitive on the trip. So if you've got anything that's like an air conditioner, it's just going to keep knocking it out. I'm like, oh, we have one of those bed jets that has it's like an air conditioner for your bed at night.
Yeah,
it's like a dehumidifier for the bed, which is nice in Florida. And apparently when that thing would kick in overnight, it would run just fine. And if there was any extra load on anything, like if I happened to plug my phone in or my iPad in next to my desk that night, then it's just a little bit of extra amperage and it would get so sensitive, it just tripped the whole room. And it's like, what the hell? And he goes, yeah, and you have to do this and this to make sure that you replace it with the right thing. And I was like, well, that's the difference between him being an engineer, like a software engineer, and me being a vibe electrician.
Being able to coordinate across multiple engineers is important in home construction. I think for someone to be successful with vibe coding or agentic AI software engineering, I think it helps if you come from a development background, but I think it helps even more if you've come from a development manager background because right?
Yeah.
Like I personally use different AI agents for different things. Some things for ideation, some for UX, some for bug fix, some for documentation. And I need to, in many ways, sit and coordinate the work across all of these areas instead of just make screens bluer, go. Wait for it all to happen.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I
know you've built some fairly sophisticated tools using AI. Can you walk us through how AI factors into your everyday software development?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So here's a great example. A lot of people are going to say like, you're foolish to be spending time on this. And I'm like, well, I've got the stats to show you that you're foolish to say that. So SEO has always been a big thing. So I do content. Essentially, my business is content. I sell content. I'm a creator between courses and everything. And so one of the things that's huge for me has always been SEO. I've been very focused on content SEO and technical SEO, search engine optimization, to make sure that I'm showing up on the first page of Google for lots of different terms and things like I rank for. I subscribe to a service that helps me keep track of keywords and what's trending and what keywords are being used on certain product pages by Microsoft, what things those are ranking on. So I want to make sure that I'm not going to be able to beat Microsoft, but I want to be able to be on the first page of one of the next few links right after Microsoft. So, this is even more important today. Now we've got other terms of agentic engine optimization and generative or Google engine optimization because of the AI answers and everything that show up. Yes, people are still going to go through and they're going to get these answers and they're not going to click through to the site, but a lot of people are going to still do it. The stats still show that a lot of people are still doing it, especially on mobile. And what it's also showing is that it's going to give you better brand recognition without having to, what we used to have to do, pay for the links to be, for ads to be able to show up at the top. So how am I using it? So I've been writing since 2003. I've got couple thousand articles that I've written. There's a lot of little, let's call them little tricks that you can do to make these different AI indexers from Google, from Bing, from Claude, from Anthropic, from, Claude and Anthropic, same thing. OpenAI, ChatGPT, I just did it again. Perplexity, whatever.
Oh no, let's be fair. I would blame Microsoft for you doing that because Microsoft says oh, you've got Claude in Copilot. Well, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, that means you have models. That doesn't mean you have the models that Claude uses and that Anthropic has sold. It doesn't mean you have the brain with the orchestrator. So like one of the things I've done is I have an SEO, I call it SAGEO. So SAGEO for search engine optimization, agentic optimization, and generative optimization. And what it does is it will look at an article that I publish or that I'm going to write, and it does a really deep, like technical kind of view to it. So a lot of these things like to see like charts, or they want to see tables because that implies comparisons. If you are a how-to article and showing people how to do stuff, there's a certain way you can write your page and mark up your page so that when these indexers actually find your content, it's going to give them more of a semantic meaning to your content. If I want to go through and have like a new theme on my site, or if I want to add like new functionality, or there's some weird kind of a logic thing that's going on, the deep research, the deep analytics, the things that I can do myself, but are just things that are going to take me more time and not more thought. Like it's still my thought, it's still my words, but if AI can help me kind of replicate my hands to get more stuff done and to have more stuff in your head while you're trying to get something done. Like we've all been down the rabbit hole to where you've got to keep all this stuff in your head while you're trying to go through and implement a new feature, or you're trying to fix a bug. When with these different agentic engineering options, especially with Claude, with a 1 million token context window, I can have it just have all this stuff in its head so that when I ask it a question about my code base, it's like, oh, this will work absolutely fantastic. But remember, you've got this other challenge that you had over here that you need to account for with this other feature. It's a new way of doing development. It's a new way of writing. It's a new way. There's so many techniques. I don't want to use skills. It's a word I would normally use, but that's a real thing now. But there's so many techniques, and there's such an art to how we use these things that I find to be super useful. Another one I vibe coded this one up. So I use a platform called Circle for my community, for all my videos are hosted, where my customers go to watch their content and everything. And I can upload a video. I can add chapters to the video like you can do with YouTube. And I can also create quizzes for them to have like an assessment, a knowledge test or knowledge check, what they learn. But the editor that they give us for like adding those chapter links is so freaking tedious to use. Like I would finish a lesson, a 90-minute lesson. I'd find the chapters that I want to add. And then I would say, now that I've added those chapters, now I got to go through and have the time code and to manually go add them. It would take me 2 days to do. If I taught a class on Monday, it would take me 2 days. By Wednesday, I could have Mondays done. By Thursday, I'd have Tuesdays done. I would always trail from it. So what I did this time is I said, hey, let's look at this page. Let's figure out how they're doing this. How are they saving these chapters? How are they saving these knowledge bases using their editor? Oh, it's just a REST API call. Okay, cool. So can I build a Chrome extension that it will detect what video is currently on the page so that I can paste in YouTube style chapter links, hit save. The Chrome extension will generate the API call back to Circle to go save the chapters for the video. Oh, and these questions that I have, that I frequently asked questions, or questions I have from the knowledge check, help me generate from the transcript the knowledge check that I have that is of the meat and potatoes and the topics that we discussed in this one lecture. Generate 10 questions using the YAML format. And when it sees that I'm on a new knowledge check page, hey, we found this. Where's the YAML file? It's right here. Save it. Something used to take me like a couple hours I would get days behind. Yep. Now it takes about 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's a great example. I did something similar 2 weeks ago. We have an application we use that does, for our clients where we help with marketing. We do market competitive analysis. We can do a competitive intelligence about what's going on in news and so on and so forth. And we can use that to generate suggested marketing campaigns.
Yeah.
And so I had the idea. I was at the gym and I actually dictated it in the drive home, like to build a Chrome extension so that when we're assembling that database of here's some of the assets that this company may want to present that live on their website, you can just type the URL in and it'll process it. But like, let's just use a Chrome extension. So like you're on the page, just hit that, show what it's going to drop in the database. You can edit it and away you go, instead of the extra step of copying and pasting a URL.
I think that too, that's a really good, what the example that I gave and the example you just gave is a really good way that I kind of differentiate on where does vibe coding good and where is more of an agentic engineering thing make a little more sense. So for example, on the one that I just have for Circle or the one that you just gave, to me, great vibe coding thing. Why? Because the only person that's going to screw the experience up for, the only risk that this tool is going to have is going to affect me. Yes, it's going to affect my customers, but it's not going to affect like their customers from their consumption experience. It's just saving me time. It just means that it would take it longer for them, but it's saving me time from stuff that my brain isn't adding any value to this at all. Copying and pasting questions in that I created, that's just grunt work. That's just fingers work, right? Same thing for those chapter links. So why not go through and build a little extension in Chrome that's going to make that a hell of a lot faster? Did I look at the code for it? I mean, I was curious about it later, yes. But once it worked, I'm like, I don't really care. I don't want to get in the Chrome extension business. So no, I didn't do it.
Right.
But great example. I'm at the gym today, had a bunch of ideas, dictated a few ideas, got back in the car, played those ideas back, popped up in Claude Code while I was driving home. Pasted in the transcription into Claude and went back and forth, like asked me some questions. Let's think through this. Cool. And I'm like, come up with a plan for me to implement this feature or for you to implement this feature when I get home. So it generates a plan. I took that plan from me dictating it, copied it in, saved it, and now I have a couple little plans that are actually running here to update, add a couple features for some ideas that I had I wanted to implement. Yep. It was more of like, it's a way to kind of have, I want to have like you have like a developer, like a buddy, like the buddy plan where you have somebody sitting next to you when you're working and you can talk through something and just the exercise of you saying it out loud helps you think through it. I love the fact that I can take a feature that I've built out and I can have an idea for something else and just say, hey, Claude, what are some of the different ways we can do this? What's a better option to this? And It's like, here's 3 options. I'm like, screw it. Come up with a plan for each one of those and go do it. I don't have to spend a week building out these things and see which one I like the most. It can do it overnight. And when I come back and check, I'm like, cool, let's throw away all the ones that you did. I like mine more, or let's throw mine away and let's take option 1 that you did and let's add in this part of option B and let's use that one instead. That experimentation.
So CAC, I thought you and I thought more alike than we had feared coming into it, because you've built a marketing application that you refer to as Circle. Ours is called Orbit. So
okay. Yeah, got it.
I'm despite the fact that I'm in the opposite corner of the country from you, I'm of the age, same as you, that we're all a little obsessed with space travel and launches and Artemis and all the rest.
Yep.
So let me ask you,
except that I got to go from my driveway and go watch Artemis blast off 142 miles south of me. So, and it was the fastest thing I've ever seen. I've watched shuttle launches, Falcon 9s, Falcon Heavies.
So if you've ever had the chance to go to it, what I found amazing is when I've been at the Cape and I've gone there for night launches, is the sky lights up and then you have this parallax where it's moving up in the sky and then 30 seconds later you get the sound across the water.
It was even cooler when we were kids and they didn't have the water suppression system. And I'd be in my grandparents' house in Orlando, like an hour and a half away from the Cape, and you would feel and hear the windows rattle.
I'd like you to bring this all together. There's definitely some risks involved with AI-based coding and vibe coding. Are we going to see skills atrophy in junior developers? Are we even going to stop hiring junior developers? So imagine that a CTO is pulling you aside at the M365 conference and asking you for advice, how he should think about software development. Should he just go buy a Claude Pro license and replace his team? How would you guide a business leader on how to be thinking about AI in the world of coding?
I think internally, you definitely want to have like a center of excellence. You want to have a handful of people in your organization that understand how to use these tools. It's like a carpenter. You can walk into a hardware store and buy a whole bunch of stuff to just get the job done. But there's certain tools that are in certain techniques that you employ for certain scenarios. I think that this really applies in this case. And yes, there's lots of things that you can. I've seen people go through and say, like, we don't need a developer to build this stuff. We're going to just have like a junior person go through and figure all this stuff out and build it all out for us. Or we're going to get rid of everybody and just have one engineer that's left to go do all this work. it's still a lot of work. I like to think of it more. The one fear that I have with this is, what is it going to do to the entry level jobs? I have a very significant concern when it comes to this specific profession. I don't disagree too much with the statements coming out of the senior people at Anthropic that are like, the title software engineer could be gone by the end of 2026, probably by the end of 2027. I'm like, as much as I'm using it, I can see that. I can totally see that. An agentic engineer, these tools are really good at writing code, and they're really good at like coming up with plans and to figure stuff out. I think that it's that what a company should do, what a CTO should do, CIO should do, is embrace them, figure out how to use them to get more done with the same staff that you have. But I do have a fear and a concern for, what does this do to the job market for entry level, especially for, I've got a son that's a junior in college and a daughter that's a junior in high school. I've got very distinct concerns for them and how it's going to impact their lives. But I'm a big believer in history repeating itself. And I'm a big believer in, like, yes, there's monumental shifts. But if you think back to, like, it could be like a Gutenberg moment, right? At the time when the Gutenberg press came out, did that put people out of work? It didn't exactly put people out of work. What it did was the only people that had the ability to write history were the rich and the royalty and the leaders, because they're the ones that could afford scribes, and then they knew how to read and write. What the Gutenberg press did is it democratized that. And we started to be able to document more and do all the stuff that we can do today.
I'd like to ask our guests something about what they've been paying attention to outside the world of business technology, something from the world of culture. I'm wondering if you have something you might want to share with the audience, a film or a TV show or even a song or something like that.
This Artemis mission had more of an impact on me and the people around me than I expected. I spent a lot of time looking at it, leading up to the mission itself, and then since the mission concluded a couple days ago, and the fallout from it. I've got a daughter, and she's so inspired, and she's about a year away from having to, or within the next year, has to pick where she's going to go to school and what kinds of things she wants to study. She's STEM oriented, and she's like, these are like my people, like all the stuff that I could see from these people on Instagram and people that worked at NASA and that worked on these different things. Like, they're geeky. I love just the feel-good story of it over the last couple of weeks. I love the fact that it's drowned out so much of the news that dominates our news feeds today. I'll just keep it as apolitical as I can. And it was also just really cool. Like, everybody around me was focused on it, looking at it. Like, when I ran outside to go watch the launch, maybe one of my neighbors comes out. The whole street was out. And they're like, where is it? You're the one who always looks for it. I'm like, look over there. And all of a sudden you see it going, like, oh my God, look. And they're like, where? They come over. I'm like, it's already gone. They're like, oh, why do they always go so fast? I'm like, they don't. That one was really fast.
Yeah.
It's really digging into lately.
Yeah, I think it's important to always keep looking up.
My favorite picture in the world was Earthrise, from the first time we were on the moon. And it is now, the one from a couple weeks ago from Artemis is now the one that's on my desktop, my iPad, my laptop, and my phone now, because it's the 4K version.
Now, thanks to AI, we're going to introduce a whole new generation to the conspiracy theories about how NASA is going to fake this one, too.
I was checking to see. I couldn't see any green screens, but I think we're good.
So, Andrew, what's next for you, and how can our audience stay in touch?
So, best way to stay in touch is I guess LinkedIn is the place where I spend the most time. You can also find me, my company site is voitanos.io, and across the links at the bottom, I got all my social stuff there, or my personal site, andrewconnell.com. That's where you can find me online. In April, I'm at the Microsoft 365 Community Conference in Orlando doing a workshop and a breakout session. 2 weeks after that, I will be at the European Collaboration Summit in Cologne, Germany, the first week of May, doing a workshop tutorial with Mark Rackley, we're doing all demo all day. They love that part. So Germany will be fun.
Great. Folks, Andrew Connell is a 23-year Microsoft MVP who teaches the world how to develop for Microsoft. You can catch his newsletter on LinkedIn, and he co-hosts the Code Deploy Go Live podcast with our friend Julie Turner. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Chris.
We'll be right back. Up next on Polaris Events. 2026 is already shaping up as a very busy year. Here's what we're watching. The M365 Community Conference. This is April 21st to 23rd at the Lowe's Sapphire Falls in Orlando, Florida. The AI and IM Summit, sponsored by the Association for Intelligent Information Management. This will be April 28th through 30th at the Hyatt Regency Inner Harbor in Baltimore, Maryland. TechCon 365 Chicago. This kicks off June 15th at McCormick Place in Chicago, Illinois. We're looking forward to joining you at one of these events. You can learn more at Synerger.com/events, and we'll add more events throughout the year. And if you have an upcoming event you'd like us to promote on Polaris, please get in touch and we'd be happy to include it. Next time on Polaris, we're going to look back at the M365 Community Conference. I'll be sitting down with our good friend Mark Cashman as we reflect on 25 years of SharePoint. We'll also look ahead at what to expect from Microsoft announcements at their Build conference in June 2026. Don't miss it. Well, that's going to do it for another episode of Polaris. I'd like to thank our guest, Andrew Connell, for joining us and sharing his thoughts on AI-assisted software development. We encourage you to check out our show page for links to everything we talked about today and more. Visit us at polaris.synerger.com. Send us your questions and feedback for the Synerger team. You can reach us via email at polaris@synerger.com. Remember to subscribe, rate, review, and tell all your friends about the show. And follow us wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Polaris is produced with help from Riverside FM. Our theme song, Alternative Dream, is provided courtesy of Adobe. Additional music and sound provided by Indie Guy Records. Graphic design by Josh Brantley. Thanks for listening. I'm Chris McNulty, and this has been Polaris, a show that charts the course for business and technology transformation from Synerger. Learn more at Synerger.com. See you next time. Keep following your North Star.